An FBI agent asked to help investigate a series of murders in Montreal, Canada. However, the plot gets more complicated as there are many mysteries to solve, and not everything is as it seems. Hi, back again at ALO Recaps. Today we will recap a story from a 2004 movie, Taking Lives. Before we get into the story, I hope you and your family are healthy and happy always. And without further ado, let's play the story. The movie begins by showing the atmosphere of a city in Canada in 1974. A confused-looking young man stands in front of the counter because he is not sure of his destination. But he then decides to buy a bus ticket to the city of Mont-Laurier. While on the bus, the young man named Martin accidentally gets acquainted with a man named Matt who sits next to him. After a short conversation, it seems that they both have the same goal of getting as far away from their place of origin as possible. But in the middle of the trip, suddenly the bus they were riding had a tire blowout, which made them both get off and decide to rent a car that happened to be nearby. On the way, Matt was seen telling so many stories from family problems to his hobby of music. But in the middle of the conversation, suddenly the tire of the car they rented had a tire burst again, which made them both get off to replace it. Because Martin did not understand how to change a car tire, Matt finally tried to replace the car tire. But unexpectedly suddenly, Martin did the unexpected. He immediately kicked Matt until he was hit by a passing car. Leaving Matt lying on the side of the road, Martin then slowly approached Matt. He took his wallet and guitar and took a large stone, and then he smashed Matt's head, which was critical, making Matt die very badly. After that, Martin casually walked away from the scene while singing like Matt had. The case made the newspapers, and other murder cases continued for 20 years, and the culprit was never caught. The scene then moves to the present. A construction worker who was working accidentally found a corpse in the construction area. Elsewhere, there is also a middle-aged woman who reported to the police that she had just met her son, who had died 16 years ago. This woman felt very scared because, according to her, her son was so very dangerous. On the other hand, the police who got the report of the discovery of a corpse in the construction area still felt confused in solving the case. Finally, the police chief then asked for help from an FBI named Ileana Scott to help them solve the case. The police chief then ordered two detectives named Paquette and Duval to meet Ileana, who was currently at the scene of the discovery of the corpse. There they saw Ileana, who was lying in the excavation pit where they found the corpse. After getting acquainted and throwing arguments, Ileana here explains that the corpse is a victim of premeditated murder, where the perpetrator deliberately chose this place because it can be seen from the excavation pit, which is very symmetrical, and also the excavation is so fitting with the corpse found. So, most likely the killer was deliberately trying to get the body found, so he buried it in a construction site. In short, the story is not finished with this case. The police found another case of murdered corpses with the same method, namely the face of the corpse found destroyed. But the difference this time, the police have a witness. He is named James Costa, who is currently being interrogated by Detective Paquette. Costa explained that he saw the killer use a rock to hit the victim in the face. At that time, he immediately screamed, but the killer pointed a gun at him and then left. So Costa had seen the killer's face. Because Costa was a painter, he asked for paper and wanted to sketch the killer's face to the police. But Paquette, who listened to all of Costa's explanations, did not believe him and left him to be interrogated by Ileana. Ileana entered the interrogation room with a paper so Costa could draw the killer's face. Here, Ileana also asked some questions while deliberately dropping the evidence, the neck strangler used by the killer. At that moment, Costa looked panicked and angry because he was still so shocked by the incident, and Ileana even deliberately showed the evidence of the killer. Seeing Costa's reaction made Ileana start to believe Costa because she thought Costa was not left-handed, while the noose marks on the victim's neck showed that the killer was left-handed because Costa had been drawing and blaming his cigarette with his right hand. And according to Ileana, a psychopath also has no taste because psychopaths think that all things are the same. So she was sure that Costa was not the culprit. The result of the sketch of the killer's face was completed, and now the police began to spread the sketch. Until a few days later, the police began to get clues where the alleged perpetrator lived, and they then headed there. When they got there, the landlord said that this man had paid the rent for 3 months from the beginning, but he had never seen him since then. Ileana and Duval immediately inspected the room. Here it was seen that this room had been neglected for a long time. Then when Ileana looked at the ceiling of the room, she saw something there. When she checked it, it turned out that there was a bag containing a wallet and a finger that still had a ring. And at that moment, they were suddenly shocked again by the corpse that came out of the roof. Police then examined the ring, and there was an engraving of the name Clark William Edward. Police immediately knew that he was a 34-year-old man, working part-time on the Alaska cruise ship, and his credit card had been used just yesterday in Montreal. But until now, there had been no reports of the credit card's disappearance. After the police looked at his phone report, it turned out that he called the same number more than 20 times. And this number belongs to a mother named Rebecca Asher, and she was a mother at the beginning who reported that she had just met her son, who had died 16 years ago. When they arrived, Ileana herself came in and gave the sketch of the face that Costa had drawn and asked if this was the face of her son, Martin Asher. After seeing the sketch, Asher seemed hesitant because the last time she saw him, his face did have a beard. But she wasn't sure if this was her son. There, Ileana looked at Martin's picture, and his mother said that Martin had a twin brother named Reese. But Reese had died when he was 14 years old. He died while helping Martin, who fell from the raft. Martin survived, while Reese died. Since that incident, Martin's attitude has turned violent. Until at the age of 16, he stole his mother's jewelry and then ran away from home. Until sometime later, he received news from the police that Martin had died in an accident. After hearing all the statements from Rebecca, Ileana then took the initiative to uncover the grave that was allegedly Martin's 19 years ago. According to his mother's statement, Martin had broken his finger. When an autopsy was performed, there were many broken bones on this corpse, but on his finger, there were no visible traces of a break at all, so it can be confirmed that this corpse is not Martin Asher. The next day, Ileana held a meeting with the police staff to explain the results of her research into this case. According to Ileana, this is all the work of Martin Asher, who has committed at least 11 murders. His first victim was Matt, that at the beginning of the movie. At that time, he was still careless by covering up his own death with a car accident, and then taking his victim's identity. Martin's mode is that he always targets men who are alone, men who, if they disappear, no one is looking for them. He then continued to kill for 19 years to take the identity of the victim and live as the person he killed. But because Martin is a person who is easily bored, in a fairly short time, he will definitely look for a new victim. Moments later, Costa is seen reporting to the police that someone has entered his gallery, causing Costa to panic because he fears that this is the work of the same person whose murder he saw. When the police check into his gallery, Ileana sees a note that Costa has an appointment with Clark William Edwards tomorrow night, and he is the victim they found dead earlier. So, this is most likely the perpetrator. According to Costa, he asked to meet to buy his paintings, and here the police then invite Costa to cooperate in catching the perpetrator. So, tomorrow night, Costa will still see Clark William Edward, and when that man shows up, the police will arrest him immediately. The next day, Costa prepared to meet Clark. He was fitted with a bug and waited at a bar where they had an appointment. But after waiting for almost 2 hours, no one came. So the police suspected that the culprit actually knew all this. Costa was panicking because his life could now be in danger. To make him feel safe, the police assigned several police officers to guard Costa's house. Ileana also reassured Costa that he was safe now that his house was under police guard. The next day, Costa was seen holding a painting exhibition. At that time, the police were still watching. Until a few moments later, a suspicious man appeared, making the police suspicious. When the police officers were about to approach, the man suddenly ran by, jumping into the glass window. The police immediately chased him. But because there was a carnival on the road, it made it difficult for the police to search, and finally the man escaped. The police, concerned for Costa's safety, decided to take him out of town tomorrow, and Detective Duval was assigned to deliver him to the Flag. The next day, Costa began packing his things and Duval waited outside. Meanwhile, Ileana, who was worried about Costa, finally decided to meet him. But it turned out that Costa, who was alone packing, was suddenly approached by the man who had appeared in his gallery yesterday. After arguing, they got into a fight. Costa was strangled until he finally managed to fight back and screamed for help. Duval, who heard the scream, immediately ran there. Not long after, Ileana also arrived at Costa's house. There she heard a gunshot, which made her immediately run to check Costa's room. Arriving there, Ileana was shocked to see her friend Duval lying dead from a gunshot. Not long after, Ileana heard the sound of a moving car and the sound of Costa screaming from the road. Quickly, Ileana then rushed to her car and chased it. In the car, Costa was seen being held at gunpoint by the man beside him. Ileana, who managed to chase him, got separated from the lane, and at that moment, Costa's car crashed, making Costa manage to save himself. The car then exploded, making the man who kidnapped Costa finally died in the car explosion. As a result of this accident, Costa was lucky not to be seriously injured. The police chief also said that the hair DNA obtained on the man matched Martin Asher, the serial killer they had been looking for. So the case was considered closed because Martin was dead. In the night, Costa came to see Ileana at her house. They were already attracted to each other and ended up spending time together. Later that morning, bloodstains were seen on the bed. Ileana, who panicked, immediately revived Costa. The blood on the bed turned out to be blood from Costa's open stitches. They both went to the hospital to re-stitch the wound. And while there, Ileana got a call from Paquette to go to the autopsy room, which happened to be the same in the hospital. While in the room, Martin's mother came to identify the corpse that was thought to be Martin. But strangely, Mrs. Martin still feels that the corpse is not her son, and she then hurriedly left the autopsy room and immediately got into the elevator. Ileana tried to chase after her, but the elevator doors were closed. Moments later, while in the elevator, suddenly heard someone calling Mom, and it turned out to be Costa. Costa asked why his mother always chose Reese over him. This proves that Costa is actually Martin Asher, the serial killer. Meanwhile, Ileana, who was waiting for the elevator, immediately ran up the stairs because she had a bad feeling about Martin's mother. When she got to the bottom, the elevator opened and she saw Martin's mother dead with Costa beside her, covered in blood. Here, Ileana looked so shocked. She didn't expect the man she liked to turn out to be Martin Asher, the serial killer. She was silent while watching the elevator doors close, letting Costa, aka Martin, just leave. Ileana, with mixed feelings, then told the police chief and Paquette that Costa was Martin Asher. They then chased him. But Martin managed to escape. Not long after, the police then rushed to search Costa's house. On the other hand, Martin was already on the train talking to a man who would be his next target. From this search, the police found out that the man in the gallery was Christopher Hart, and he was just an addict and thief of paintings. He sold his paintings to Martin, but had not been paid. Martin deliberately set him up to orchestrate all this and make Christopher look like he was Martin, the serial killer. A few moments later, Martin suddenly called Ileana's cell phone. He just said that he managed to make Ileana fall in love with the figure of James Costa, and also said that he really enjoyed being with Ileana. Everything went smoothly according to his wishes. Hearing that made Ileana upset and then threw away her cell phone. The police finally got a clue from the previous victim's credit card. There was a transaction for a train ticket 3 hours ago, and the police immediately rushed there to arrest Martin. But after scouring the entire contents of the train station, the police again failed to arrest Martin Asher. Meanwhile, elsewhere, Ileana, who returned home, began to have déjà vu with her experience with Martin. She then realized that all of this had been planned from the beginning. Martin lied about his gallery being broken into by people. Then he tricked Christopher Hart until he came to his house. He used the opportunity to shoot Duval, then pretended to be at gunpoint during a car chase, to close it by crashing the car until it exploded. Knowing that fact made Ileana look so very disappointed, because without realizing, she had been tricked by Martin. The next day, Ileana was seen leaving the police station, because by this time, she had been dismissed by the FBI because her judgment was considered very blurred and failed in carrying out her duties. Short story, 7 months later, Ileana was pregnant with Martin's child. She lived her life quietly alone in a secluded place. But suddenly, Ileana's calm ended. She was surprised by Martin's arrival at her house, which turned out that all this time, Martin had been watching her. When Ileana was about to take her gun, it turned out that Martin had taken all the bullets in the gun that Ileana had been hiding. Martin said that he wanted to start a new life with Ileana and his child. But Ileana refused, making Martin angry. He hit Ileana until she bounced. Ileana, who tried to fight back, was finally defeated, and Martin then immediately stabbed Ileana's stomach with scissors. But surprisingly suddenly, Ileana turned around and immediately thrust the scissors into Martin's chest. So all this time, Ileana was not pregnant. She pretended to be pregnant. She deliberately arranged everything to lure Martin to come. She also cooperated with the police from the beginning, and her dismissal was also part of this plan, and the movie was finished. Taking Lives leaves a strong impression due to its dark and suspenseful atmosphere. The portrayal of the complex psychology of the characters, especially the very clever serial killer, manages to spark curiosity. Angelina Jolie, in her role as FBI agent Ileana Scott, portrays a very strong yet emotionally vulnerable figure. The dynamics between the main characters, such as Ileana and Martin, played by Ethan Hawke, are also very interesting, considering both have backgrounds full of secrets and inner conflicts. Taking Lives reminds us that our identities and self-perceptions can be very fragile and easily manipulated. The character of the killer who keeps changing his identity, and even the other characters who struggle with past trauma, show how difficult it is to find the truth in a world full of lies and manipulation. The movie also teaches the importance of trust, but at the same time warns us about the dangers of trusting people who may be keeping big secrets. So, what do you think about this movie? If you like it, please like and comment in this video, and subscribe so you don't miss any video from ALO Recaps. See you in next video.